This Muay Thai Library session is with crew Manop Yuang Yai. He is very well known as the Padman of Sanchai, and he's opened his own gym in Chiang Mai. He is one of the greatest instructors. He's very detailed, he's very clear, and he will let you just go down a rabbit hole of detail for high repetition, which is incredibly generous of a trainer and of a teacher. He's really good at the femur style, and we have a library session with him previously where he's really just going into detail on the teep. In this one, he really works with me on trips. I will admit that that is a weak point for me. I am not comfortable with or good at trips and the kind of more tricky style, but that's actually great for you guys because my inability to pick it up really quickly and my discomfort with it actually allows the long form of training sessions that we use for the Muay Thai Library to demonstrate why that's such a good learning tool. You get to see him rework all the little details to get all the small things that go into this kind of thing that some people who this comes to them naturally, they can just do it kind of within one or two tries. And so that doesn't actually help you necessarily learn it because someone is feeling it and going for it. Because I have a difficulty in feeling it, we really get to work through it. So this is very instructive and very good for people watching this Muay Thai Library session to learn some awesome sweeps and trips. And Manop is just an incredible teacher. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And if you like this one a lot, you can go back and watch the teep session that was prior to this with crew Manop. And if you guys have already seen that session with crew Manop, this one is excellent. You'll enjoy this one very much as well. So he's starting out by showing me how to sweep someone off of a caught kick. So look at the angle of his kick. He's kind of hooking my standing leg. He's saying when you practice, you use the bottom of your foot so that you don't hurt your training partner. But in a real fight, you're basically going to be like hooking with a kick. He's saying it helps that when you catch the kick, you want to lift a little bit. You'll hear Thai trainers say yok, yok. Yok is to lift something up. So when you catch the kick, you immediately lift it, which helps off-balance your opponent, which means the impact you need on that standing leg with your kick is less. So he felt that I was not lifting his leg on the catch. Look at how immediately he lifts it, and he also lifts it while his kicking leg is coming towards my standing leg. So there's kind of this like seesaw action with his body, that he's lifting my leg in his arm at the same time that he's coming to sweep my standing leg. He's saying you have to do this often because that will make you accustomed to it. Tam boy boy means do it a lot. Leo chin. Chin is to be used to something. Look at how his body kind of tips back at the same time that he's kicking my standing leg. He makes it simultaneous. See how I do it in two parts? So I catch it, and then I'm like, gotta lift it, and then I go to kick him. So I actually do it in three parts. His is the catch, and then he kind of does the seesaw thing with the lift and the kick out. This made me really happy what he's saying right now. He says when you fight for real, you're not necessarily going to take this sliding step to the side. I'm giving him this incredulous look because I'm like, I have been chastised by so many trainers for not taking that sliding sidestep because then you take the full impact of the kick. And he's like, Sylvie, for sure, when you're training, take the step to the side to take the impact out. But if you watch Muay Thai, how many fighters actually take that step to the side? He's like, people just catch it full brunt, that's fine. So in training, it's the same thing as how you use like the inside of your thigh for clinch practice or the bottom of your foot for this trip so that you don't hurt your training partner. But if you are like me and you do not take this little slide step over when you catch the kick, know that many fighters in a real fight don't accomplish that either. So he's saying if you don't do that little lift, it's easier for the opponent to keep their balance. That little lift that he just did on my leg, which he's doing simultaneous to his foot coming in contact with my standing leg, that off balances me further. It's tipping me off of my center point, and I'm on one leg. So it's creating an easier path to him being able to kick my standing leg out. Whereas you might have to like soccer punt someone's standing leg really hard if they have a solid base on it. So you're trying to take their base out a little bit. Look at how generous he is in just doing this over and over again too, and like ironing out all these tiny details. So there he's showing if I don't kick the leg out, I can just come and knee him in the belly. And he's saying if they don't go down, so he kicks my standing leg and I don't go down, you have another counter available. So see how he didn't go with my kick to his leg? Now I can just kick him in the body instead and get a really nice open point on that because he's off balance. The point is to off balance someone, and if you don't off balance them enough for them to fall down, they're still off balance to the point where you can land a good point on top of it. Oh, that little like seesaw of his foot coming forward to kick my leg out and lifting my leg at the same time with his upper body is it's so simple, and I'm struggling with it so much, which again he says you have to do this very often so that you can just feel it, you just get used to it. And again, how you practice something is not necessarily how you're going to do it in a fight. We practice things to not hurt our training partners. So this bottom of the foot thing is for training, whereas in a fight you're going to be using where your like foot and your ankle meet, and you kind of like hook the leg just a little bit as you kick it. But see how he's trying to teach me distancing on that catch, and if he doesn't go down, I have the right distance for that kick. He wants me to feel where he is and where I am. Here he's switching it up a little bit. It's exactly the same kick, and you're still lifting the leg. But instead of going outside of the standing foot, you're going inside the standing foot. So you're going to use your opposite leg to trip them. He says to go to the inside is actually easier. This is an easier trip. It's more likely that they'll go down. Look at me think about it. I'm like that gif where the cat has to do all the calculations before it jumps. He does it very naturally. See how he takes two little baby steps towards me and then takes my leg out. He is not taking giant steps forward, which is what I'm thinking to myself, which is why it's actually hard for me. Tiny, tiny steps. He takes two of them. And then he's actually hooking behind my leg here, which I'm like, isn't that a foul? Because you can't put your calf behind someone else's calf. He's not actually putting his calf on me if you look. He's putting his heel on the back of me. And he makes a point here, which is this is so effective at making someone fall down that it won't be called as a foul because really they're just falling down, so you can do it really fast. If you mess it up and kind of foul in a very strong way where you actually are putting your calf on the back of someone's leg and they don't really go down, or it takes you like a solid 3 beats to get them to fall over, then people are going to see that that's a foul and they're going to call it. But he's like, this is super effective at making someone fall down, and so it's not called as a foul. He's like, many people in fights do this, and you're just kind of, see how he's putting the bottom of his foot on the back of my, it's kind of my Achilles tendon? That's how you practice it, but you can kind of just like hook the leg towards you. So there I did his 2 little baby steps. That was good. But as you take those 2 little baby steps, you're kind of setting the pace to then put pressure on their chest and knock them over. So your upper body and your lower body are working in a kind of scissoring action to make the person fall over. So see how my right arm is kind of going across his chest?
No?
I'm kind of making it more of a sweep, and he kind of pulls the leg out. He's like pulling my leg towards him. So this is a good point about how Manop teaches. He puts himself near the ropes so that I can actually trip him for real, and he can keep getting tripped without slamming into the ground over and over again. So if you're very lucky and you have a training partner who will do this with you over and over again, scoot yourself over to the ropes so that they can catch themselves on the ropes and not fall down over and over again. And the person who's doing the tripping can have a more realistic feel for pulling someone's weight out from under them. He's now adding a little bit of a turn. He was doing this anyway, but he's emphasizing the turn now because I was doing more of a like kind of lateral push on him. It's not lateral, it's a little bit of a twist.
Walk. Little bit.
So he just told me don't turn your body. I was like twisting my body to make him fall down because now I'm thinking, because he emphasized that turn, I'm thinking I have to kind of like turn around him like a ballerina in a box or something. But he was just emphasizing to me kind of how my right arm, which is going across his chest, should be twisting him against my foot that's behind his leg. So there is a little bit of a twist like this, but I should not be twisting my body around him. I should not be stepping around him. When he does it in shadow, honestly, when Crew Manop does anything in shadow, it's like one of the more beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. But when he does things in shadow, you can really see the twist of his upper body and his lower body working together. That's what makes the opponent fall so expertly. Look at that. I don't, in shadow, I don't even do it the way he did it. I'm looking at the wrong part. So listen to what I'm saying so that you can look at the right part. Look at how he's doing it in shadow. See how his lower extremity, his leg, kind of kicks to the side, but he's pulling my leg towards him, and then his upper body is going in the opposite direction to kind of like scissor.
Little step.
I'm taking too big of a step. The reason that's important is that my weight transfer to have impact when I actually get to him, to be able to trip him. If I take too big of a step, then I have to drag the rest of my weight towards him in order to get him to fall. Whereas if I take 2 baby steps, my weight is in the middle, and I have more impact on trying to knock him over. It's like trying to open something heavy with your arm fully extended versus if it's kind of close to you. Oh, look at his tiny little like shuffle steps forward. Do that. He keeps telling me that I'm in the wrong range. I'm a knee fighter, so when I come towards someone to set up to like do something, I set up in knee range. Like I'm setting up way too close to him, and he's like, this is a kick thing, so you need to stay at the range of a kick. So again, when you're practicing this with a partner, put yourself at kicking range, even if that's uncomfortable for you, because you can do this on a knee, but we're practicing this on a kick, so be in kicking range, because that's when someone's going to fire it at you.
Spin, yeah, turn.
He keeps telling me that I'm turning my own body. When I turn my own body, I've lost the power that I had to turn his body, because I turn mine, and then I'm already turned, and I don't have the impact to turn him. If I keep myself
but not a push.
straight
Not
forward
push.
and come forward
You
at
scissor.
him and turn his body, he'll fall down.
But you're,
I'm getting a little bit confused in my head here. I actually understand it less than I did like 5 minutes ago. So I'm struggling to understand what I had understood before. And this might happen to you when you're learning something like this. You'll do it because you're doing it based on kind of feeling, and then you'll start overthinking it and you will lose it. Don't overthink it. Be like, that person's gonna fall down, my foot needs to hit their leg, and I gotta do this little like push, and then just keep going on it. Don't overthink it. Look at how he like, actually Sagat kicks like this. He kicks and he like pulls his knee back towards himself. Crew Manop is doing this in how he kicks the standing leg. I just did it a little bit better there. You go behind the Achilles tendon a little bit and like hook it towards yourself a little bit.
there we go.
There, I added a knee on top of it, and this got my confidence going a little bit. So if you're outside of your style, like me, I'm comfortable enough in my own style that I can go outside of it. But if you're working in something that's very uncomfortable for you, add little elements of style that are yours, and it'll help pull it all together. Because again, the way you learn this is feeling. This is not a like, let me break it down verbally or with like little like calculations all over the screen. You have to feel this. So watch how his body is moving, imitate that, and then when you work with your partner, you will feel how easily they go or how hard it is to knock them over, and they can give you insight into what it felt like for them, and that's how you're going to figure out how to have these massively fast and beautiful trips. So he's telling me to put more emphasis on my hand and less on the foot that's trying to kick his leg out. Because honestly,
Yes, he's
the
just
foot
tripping
is just kind of pinning the standing leg
He is
in
turning-
place,
He is
and then
turning
the
you.
hand is kind of twisting
turning
the
you
body
after the
around
pin.
it. It's like that schoolyard thing where someone like crouches behind someone and you shove them. Your foot is just posting the standing leg in place so that they can't correct their balance as you start to knock them over with your hand. That was missing for me up until this point. He's laughing at me again because I keep turning myself. There we go. So I actually have to step, when you take the two little baby steps, I have to step right next to his foot. And I'm too close to him again. There we go. So I understood something just now about pinning the foot. When I'm clinching, I trip people like this. I pin their leg, their outside leg, with mine, and then I just twist them around it. And he's like, yes, that's totally the same thing. So conceptually, I understand how this is working now and how the upper body kind of just twists them around the like spot that you've nailed them to. He's saying you can do the same trip on a knee as well. So if someone comes to knee you, you can kick out their standing leg exactly the same way that he's teaching me with a kick. Dangwat. If you guys learn no other word in Thai, that one's important. It means timing and rhythm. So using the correct timing on something is paramount importance. So it's not how hard you do something, it's not necessarily how fast you do something, it's those things together in Dangwat, which is having the right timing for when their weight is coming forward with a knee or a kick, and you're taking their leg out from under them.
You're starting to feel something.
I'm still doing like a pirouette
Come on now.
thing. You guys might notice that I keep whining to Crew Manop after putting him on the ground as he's coming back up. This is a sign of respect to him because he's letting me do this thing over and over and over to him. So I'm trying to be polite in the context of him letting me put him on the ground over and over again. So if you are lucky enough to have a trainer, and honestly just go train with Manop, if you're lucky enough to have a trainer who allows you to do this, just show them respect that they're letting you kind of throw them on the ground over and over again.
ปึ๊บโอ้ยปึ๊บโอ้ย
So now I'm mixing it up a little bit again. So I'm trying to like block and put a little bit of my own rhythm in it, which is really good because we've isolated out this technique so many times that my brain has kind of lost track of how it goes. The way that you put the jangwat, the timing and the rhythm that he's talking about into these movements is to then come outside of the context of the drill a little bit, work your way into that distance and the kick, and then kind of like fill in the blanks into the way that you'd be moving normally.
Better.
Yeah, it's in your hand.
So there I felt it
The foot is-
because we started
just stop her.
moving around a little bit more and I stopped overthinking it.
นี่ผมแทงเข่าเกี่ยวแล้วตัดเหมือนกันเกี่ยวแล้วมือตัดยังแทงเข่า
So here
แทงเข่า
he's saying again, it's the same thing with a
แล้วแท
knee.
งข้างเกี่ยว
You're just at a closer
Same,
distance.
yeah.
นะเกี่ยว
So see how he just, instead of catching the knee, because you catch the kick, you don't catch the knee, you actually just kind of like scoot it
เนี่ย
along the side and then trip them in exactly the same way.
ล็อกไว้แทงเกี่ยวให้อยู่เกี่ยวให้อยู่
He's still laughing at me because I keep turning myself more than I'm turning him.
แทง
He's still going down, which is okay. But the reason he's telling me not to turn myself but to turn him is I'm basically making it harder for myself than it needs to be.
ถ้าอย่างนี้อย่างนี้ป่ะ
See how he just shoves my knee is coming towards the center line and he just kind of like shoos
ย
it
กไวๆครับ
away. He kind of catches it before it reaches him and shoos it to the side. And because it's coming across my body, that's going to make it so much easier for him to knock me down. It's basically replacing what he was doing with his hand coming across my shoulder for the kick and putting it down
ช่าง
on the knee instead.
โอ้ย
Knocking myself over.
หมุนเอาหมุนปุ๊บหมุนรอบตัวเองหมุนรอบตัวเอง
So
Pretty.
ขาล็อกไว้
before he was telling me not to turn my body so much, and right here what he's telling me is to make sure that I step over to the side. The reason I have to step over to the side is to evade the knee. But if I stay close enough to him, that's going to be, it's kind of like a matador situation where I can kind of twist him onto the ground by staying really close and just dodging his knee.
อยู่กับ
Because we're much closer to each other. At kicking range, you catch it and you throw the shoulder. But at kneeing range, you're so close that the closer you stay to his standing leg, the easier it's going to be to actually knock him over.
At the same time, 'cause then it's just-
Mm.
Look how generous he is to just keep doing this, like over and over again. It's not even a partner situation where it's like you do 5 and I do 5. Like it's just me, and then him correcting me. He's so nice. So I did that in two phases. I stepped close enough to him, which was really good, but then I had to have a second step to trip him. The step towards him to evade the knee and the tangling of his standing foot should actually be one
โอเค
motion.
อันนี้ไลน์ที่นี่เซมเกิน
ใช่
อันนี้ถ้าเป็นขาซ้ายเตะขาซ้ายเตะเตะขาซ้าย
เว้ย
เกี่ยว
สวย
So this is if someone kicks you with their left leg if they're from orthodox position. This is really good because if we're both orthodox and I'm kicking with my left leg, I'm kicking into his open side. That's a really big score. By him catching it and pulling it across my body, he's now come outside into my blind spot and it's really easy to trip me. Sanchai does this and he knees like kind of right up at the top of the butt, like where the hamstring and the butt meet. His opponents, even the ones who are much bigger than him, go like banana peel, like whoop into the air and down. That's because of what Manop is doing right here, where he pulled my leg across my own body so that he could get access to my standing leg behind my standing leg. And by pulling my leg across my body, he's completely off balancing me before doing this like whoop knee into my hamstring.
ปุ๊บช้อนเลยเอามือช้อน
So he's showing how to catch it against your bicep. He's like, it's not going to hurt you to take a kick against your bicep. So you let it kind of hit an arm that's closed, you don't want to hit it with your forearm. You want it to hit into the meaty part of
Reach
like your
across.
bicep. But you're catching it with your opposite arm, like scooping it almost like a football. And then with that little scoop, you're going to pull it across their body. And then you have access to this hamstring of the standing leg.
ใช่ใช่มือช่วยกดด้วย
I had a really hard time targeting where he wanted me to hit that standing leg. It's very
Almost like a
high.
knee almost.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
still
up.
Standing leg.
Yeah.
It's up where the butt and the hamstring meet. But he makes this point several times that you're basically lifting them with your knee. I'm kneeing him instead of lifting him. It's a similar thing if you guys have watched the session with Karahat, where Karahat is teaching me how to like Bugs Bunny hook the leg and pull it out while someone is coming towards you. You don't kick their leg. You basically scoop their leg like with your ankle.
He grabbed the
This
shoulder.
is what Crew Manop is doing to me. See how high his knee is coming?
Boom.
It looks like he's kneeing like a soccer kick, but he's lifting me with his
ถ้าแท
knee.
งไม่ได้เตะก็ได้เตะกวาดก็ลงซ้าย
He's saying you could just kick the leg out too. They'll fall down. But he likes this one because you're like lifting them into the air. He's saying I'm going too low.
แล้วให้มันเฉียงเฉียง
If you go low,
เฉียงเฉียง
they might not fall down.
เฉียงเฉียงอะแทง
But if you go up high, you can like lift them into the air.
ไม่แทงตรงแทงตรงมันไม่ลงต้องแทงเฉียง
This is slightly an issue of our size disparity. Crew Manop is much bigger than me, so it's hard for me to like pop him up because of our like weight and size differences. That said, with the proper technique, you can lift someone significantly bigger than the difference between me and Crew Manop if you hit the right spot and kind of like push up with your knee instead of like kneeing with your knee. So see how
Keep
I'm
your
kind
root
of like
better.
scooping
Afterwards.
straight across? I need to be like, he's saying again, yoke, yoke. That's lifting.
Roop.
A
Afterwards.
little bit.
อัพพอดี
Yeah.
I'm focusing so much on that knee and where it's hitting him that I'm forgetting that the reason that
After
works
root,
is when you
Sylvie.
pull the leg across the body and you're off balancing them already. If you lift the leg a little bit, they're already starting to go. And so when you
แทงให้ขามันยก
lift
แทงให้ขามัน
underneath them, their weight is already shifting off of a solid point, and it's easier to lift them. It's like lifting someone in water.
แทงแบบยกอะเห็นป่ะอย่างเงี้ยมันเลยยกขึ้นมา
Look at him do it in shadow. It's so
ยก
pretty.
ปุ๊บแทง
Do that.
ซ้ายหน่อยซ้าย
It's
ช้อน
like perfect.
ซ้ายแทงยกโน่แทงเยอะเราไม่ได้
So
แทง
see how I'm like,
จริงๆ
I'm not
เรายก
stepping
เราใช้
quite
ยก
close
เอา
enough to him,
เหมือนแทง
and
เข่า
so my
ยก
knee is coming
ยก
around behind the back of his leg, rather than stepping so close and straight towards him. Look at how straight he'll step towards me. Look at his left
แทง
foot.
แบบยกอะ
His left foot comes straight towards my standing leg, so that when his back leg comes to like hit me in the hamstring, his body is so close to me that the full power of his
อ่า
knee to lift me
แรงๆ
is right there on me.
ใช้น้ำหนักเอามา
You can't do this from a distance.
เนี่ย
Trying to use a super
Need this
long
guy.
forklift or
อ่า
something.
Knee this guy.
ใช่นี่
Up.
คือสกาย
So Kevin is trying to tell me to knee the sky, to like really think about that knee coming up. See how my knee is going in? I'm trying to sweep him with my knee instead of lift him with my knee. Doing a little bit of a Sanchez shuffle on me.
Yeah, but
Huh?
stand up afterwards.
My feet are tangled. Like, don't-
Okay, stumble around.
So I'm actually off balance after trying to do this.
พยายามจะหันอย่า
If I think about wanting to have, in Thai it's called roop, it's like your overall composure. If I think about trying to have an upright, proud overall composure on the end of this,
ผมตั้งเชีย
it
ร์
actually corrects my form in a really strong way. Because you want to be approaching this person that you're tripping very straight and in a kind of like shoulders up, like chest forward, really taking their space and knocking them over. If you do it in a kind of like floppy, like crouched
It's like Yokum
or
Pon's knee.
slumped over way, you're
the
putting
center
your
from the
power in
outside.
all kinds of different places that don't direct it towards your opponent. So actually thinking of that cockiness and that pride of like, I'm just going to come straight at you and
แขนลงมาแล้วก็
knee you in the
แทง
butt and make you fall on the ground. If you think this way, it actually puts your body in more proper positions for it.
เนี่ยอย่างเงี้ย
Like
ตัว
you're
ตัว
coming
ไม่ต้อง
outside
เฉียง
of
มาก
him, and you're not
แทงขึ้นไปเลย
Okay.
แทงขึ้นไปเลยเหมือนแทง
This is an important thing about styles, actually.
Dong, dong.
One of the things about being a Muay Thai fighter is that you have to have stylistically and energy-wise and like persona-wise
แทงตรงก้นไม่
this
ลง
relentlessness. You cannot be a like, oh, sorry, kind of knee fighter. The same thing with femur, and why I struggle with this kind of thing is that you have to come right up on someone's space with this upright posture in order to make a lot of these things work.
ใช่เพราะว่าเวลา
So
เวลา
not only looking at where does the foot go, where does my knee go, where does my arm go, that's not entirely how techniques work. Some of how techniques work are be Manop, be Karahat, act like you're Sanchai. Like if you actually don those energies, you will correct your technique in ways that you could not possibly anticipate. It was the same thing I was saying about how when I added my knee on top of it, because that's more natural to me, I ended up stepping in the right spot
The energy was
because of
good.
adding that knee. So this
Energy
one,
was good, Sylvie.
this is helping because the energy is better. It's the like, I'm gonna put you on your ass energy rather than like, let me creep towards you and maybe make you fall over. Like you have to have this like you are going down
ถ้าก้าวนิดเดียวเรา
energy in order to make a lot of this work.
ทำนี่แล้วแล้วก็ยัดใต้เข่า
ใช่
เวลาเสร็จแล้วทำนี่
ชัก
So I'm showing him that after I've used my knee to try to lift him,
จุ๊บ
I'm ending up with my feet really close together like this.
ยก
And so I don't really have like a standing position at the end of it.
แทงไม่มีน้ำหนักทำไม
There we go.
มือปัดด้วยมือเอาใหม่มือปัดครับมือปัดอย่างเงี้ยยก
So he's saying now, after I've swept it across his body, go ahead and put my hand on his
Okay,
chest
you're just learning first time.
to help with the process of off balancing him so that my knee has a better chance of knocking him over. It's exactly the same concept of lifting the leg when you've caught it on the kick in order to help you kick the leg out because their weight is not like fully posted on it.
มือขวามือขวา
So here, putting my hand across his chest is actually helping me with the knee process.
เวลาเกี่ยวไม่ต้องถอย
So again, I'm going like way too low on his leg, and he's telling me that I'm kind of like stepping out after. I'm like trying to get away from him way faster than is necessary for this move to work. It's basically I've taken your spot and you've fallen on the ground rather than like I tripped you and now I'm running away from you. You basically want to take someone's
เวลา
spot.
ซ้อมเราจะไม่เตะแรงเวลา
And
ซ้อม
he's
เราเกี่ยวแล้ว
showing how to use that same hooking action with the foot that's kicking the leg out. So I should actually be like pulling his leg towards me in order to knock him over.
ยกปุ๊บ
See how my posture changed right there? I put my hips forward.
เกี่ยวตัด
This will help.
Pretty.
เกี่ยวตัด
So pretty.
แทงนะมันจะคล้ายๆ
He's saying that the knee and that little hook is actually the same movement with the leg. It's just on a different height of the standing leg. So if I go low on his standing leg, you do this little like hooking thing with the foot. And if you go high, you're doing the same thing with your leg, but you're putting it up in his hamstring. He's showing how you're sliding them out. It's totally that like hook, that Bugs Bunny hook, like pulling the foot out from under them. There you go. There it is.
เนี่ยเกี่ยว
So see how you don't have to rush and you don't have to use a whole lot of power? Like you don't have to like slam the leg out. You have to do like a little bit of a scoop. Scoop.
อ่ะต้องค่อยบอก
อย่า
อย่า
ถ
ถ
อ
อย
ย
สลิป
ใช่
ถอยแล้ว
I'm
ถ้าเราถอย
อย่าถอย
จับได้
I'm a knee fighter. I should know this already. Don't back up.
เขาเตะ
If,
เขาชัก
if you're
ขา
coming
ที
to
บ
trip them and you back your own body up, you've lost all the power and leverage you have to take their leg with you. You need to stay close and pull their leg out towards you rather than backing yourself up.
อ่า
There we go.
เนี่ยสไลด์เลยเกี่ยวแล้วมันสไลด์ไป
Slide. So his foot is sliding along the canvas. That's what he's talking about there.
อันนี้ต้องยก ยกแรง
So when I want to lift him,
อ่า
I need to let my leg come up under him much higher. But whether I'm going low on his leg or high on his leg in order to scoot his foot out or lift him at the hamstring, my arm needs to come across his body. That part's very important.
อ่า
There we go.
มือขวา
เหมือนกัน
ใช่ มือช่วย
Moo, moo. That's your hand. So if your trainer is saying moo, moo, they're either saying keep your hands up or they're letting you know that the power of what they're trying to tell you to do is in the hand. What he's telling me is the important part is actually the hand coming across his chest.
เกี่ยวดีๆทุบ
โน้
แทงเลยเกี่ยวยกมือ
ใช่
มือเอาใหม่แทงใหม่พอเกี่ยวเสร็จปุ๊บก้าวไปเลยมือเกี่ยวมือเกี่ยวแล้วยก
When he does it in shadow and in space, it is like perfect. If you guys can just slow that down and watch that over and over again, that is what you need to be doing with your body.
แทงขึ้นไปเลยยกขึ้นไปเลยปุ๊บ
There we go.
ให้มีน้ำหนักโชว์ซ้าย
So see how close I have to get to his standing leg in order to get this to work at all. I need to be like right up on it. If I'm going low on the leg, if I'm going to scoot his foot towards me, I can stay a little bit farther away from him than if I'm going up under the hamstring. If you want to do the hamstring one, you need to be like right up against their standing leg. If you're going to be scooping it, you can be a little bit farther away because you're pulling towards yourself, but the hand needs to be across either way.
ยกไม่แทงเฉียงใช่ป่ะมือขวาแทง
He's making a point again about the hand. Look at the difference between, like the interaction between the two hands. So you pull the leg across with the one hand, and as you come forward with your chest, the opposite hand from the one that's holding the leg needs to be going across his chest.
ก้าวใกล้แทงแทงให้เข้าตรง
So there I'm like kneeing his hamstring, which is not how that works. I need to
Put your hip
lift
into
with it.
the kick into the knee. You're leaving your butt. You,
I'm leaving my butt back,
yeah.
which you can't do anything with
Put your
that.
hip into the knee.
ก้าวมือ
Put your hip into the knee.
There.
แทง น่ะ
I'm still going too low. I don't know if I'm embarrassed or something, but like you basically need to put the top of your thigh like right above your knee. That needs to go right into where their hamstring and their butt meets and lift. You're kneeing to the sky. That's how you're lifting them, but you're not actually kneeing the leg.
ใช่ยก
Huh. Went a little low on that one, but the pushing pressure of it was right.
ซ้าย
Whoop.
ซ้าย
If you look, after I catch, like I let his kick impact my arm, and I catch it, like I cradle it right with my other arm. But if you watch me, I actually take my hips back in order to pull his arm across, which I don't have to do. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm used to catching a kick and putting my hips out of the way in order to sweep it across my body. But because it's so high, I don't actually have to move my hips to clear that leg. There we go. Didn't move my hips on that one.
อ่า
You can see the difference when I shadow it and when he shadows it. I don't conceptually put the relationship between my leg that's sweeping his standing leg or lifting him and the arm. Like the relationship between those two is completely severed, and that's actually the whole thing of how this technique works. So when you watch him do it in shadow, you'll see how beautifully his arm that comes across the chest and his leg that's sweeping the standing leg or lifting from the standing leg, the way that they work together is
Afterward,
just
look cool.
beautiful and perfect.
Look cool. Come on, afterward. Sylvie. Yes, there we go.
So me actually standing tall after attempting
There
this,
we
whether he
go.
goes or not, helps with the entire process. again, it's a little bit of a like pantomime or like donning the energy of that fighter.
เห็นไหมอันนั้นไงซิลวี่ทำได้เลย
ตัวเตี้ย
ตัวเตี้ยไม่เกี่ยวกับตัวเตี้ย
ชกกับยาวๆชอบเตะขอใช่ไหม
เออ
จับปัง
So I'm talking to him about
ก้าวจริง
how my opponents who are so much taller than me really like to try to kick me in the head. It's a common occurrence for Sylvie.
เอา
So he gets into this idea of when someone tries to kick you in the neck.
เอาตีนขวาคนเตะเยอะขวาคนเตะเยอะยืน
So I struggled with this a little bit for the reason that just the way that Crew Manop catches this kick
สองมือช่วย
is an under-over difference between how I've been taught with Yod Kun Pon. So if you go back in the library and watch Yod Kun Pon, he teaches me how to catch a head kick. You just kind of like clamp your hand over it and like throw someone off.
ตึ๊บโยนทิ้ง
Everything is exactly the same in terms of what Crew Manop is teaching me, in terms of like catching it and then just standing up and like basically lurching someone forward. You're just like hay baling them off of you. But I just did the way Yod Kun Pon taught me with my hand clamping over the top.
อ่า
He wants the opposite. So you're blocking with the hand that I would be catching with and scooping under with the arm that's already on that side.
ดันทิ้งเลย
So I had a hard time with this because I've practiced this the opposite way with Yod Kun Pon many times, but both work.
ปุ๊บก้าว
I think that what it boils down to in terms of which one you're going to want to use if you're able to practice both is what your guard feels like and how easy it is to clamp down over or how easy it is to block across and like scoop under. That's what it's going to boil down to in terms of which of these techniques is better for you. Neither of them are wrong and both of them are right. How you decide between techniques, if you guys are watching the entire Muay Thai library and people conflict with each other, the way you choose is the one that feels better to you.
ไม่ยอดตัวดิซิลวี่เตะซิลวี่เตะ
So again, he's using the ropes to allow me to kind of like hurl him through space so that he's not actually falling on the ground. But it's basically a like
ก้าวเดียว
cradle catch,
ไม่ยอดตัว
and then you stand up and it like hurls someone forward.
ถ่ายน้ำหนักนิดนึงก็ได้ถ่ายน้ำหนักก็ได้ยืนอ่ะ
So pretty when he does it.
ช่วย
When he does
ถ่ายน้ำ
anything
หนักนิดนึง
in shadow, in
ย
space,
ก
you
อ่า
can see
ไงยก
the detail of
เก่ง
his technique. It's so pretty.
ปุ๊บอ่า
นี่
อ่าอ่า
So he's a little bit more of a take a step forward, whereas Yod Kun Pon is a little bit more of like a just stand up. But you do both.
ปุ๊บ
ยก
สูง
again
อ่า
to lift
อ่ะยกสูงเลยปุ๊บ จับให้ดี
Some people are pretty bendy, and when you catch their leg and lift it, they can kind of like balance themselves and like let that leg go up.
สองมือจับ
Other
ให้โดน
people like
เลย
me, not bendy at all, you lift just a little bit and they're very off balance. The point of this one is how fast you take that step forward and lift up. It's the timing, it's the jungwa of catching and lifting rather than like
จะได้ลดลงหน่อย
how hard you're like bending someone's leg up.
อ่าอย่างเงี้ย
So he felt that one. He felt the timing on that one, and that's why I got a little like yes on that.
ปุ๊บ
He doesn't like how I'm catching it. He can tell that I'm like taking
Use your leg,
too many
use your leg.
steps
ยกไปเลยยก
from
เลยเดิน
catching
เดิน
it to throwing him.
เดิน
It
แล้วยก
should
สู
just
ง
be like how a baseball falls into your mitt, how you cradle a football when you catch it, how you can clap around a frisbee. Like basically the way you're catching this kick is you just let it land into your little trap, and then you lift and step in order to throw them off.
ปุ๊บปุ๊บปุ๊บปุ๊บ
There. Boop, boop. It should be that easy. Instead, I'm like using my arms to like move a bunch of different pieces. But again, it's what he said earlier. You do it frequently in order to get used to it, so it becomes
อ่า
automatic.
โชว์ปุ๊บเออปุ๊บ
ไม่ต้องดัน
สบายสบายปุ๊บปุ๊บมันง่าย
He's saying you should be very relaxed doing
แต่เวลา
this.
ที่สู
Like,
สีสูสี
you shouldn't be like hoisting the leg into the air. It should feel very relaxed, like it just kind of snapped into place and you just
อ่า
lift.
จับแล้วช้อนมาอันนี้ป้องกัน
ใช่
บางคนเขาเตะเขาเหมือนจะเตะแค่นี้แต่เขาเตะขึ้นมา
ใช่
อ่ะ
I really struggled with blocking across my face like this. I think if I had thought about it as the dragon guard, it actually would have been much easier.
ใกล้ๆอย่างเงี้ย
Sometimes you can cheat to learn a technique by likening it to another one that you already like.
อ่านี่ก็ปุ๊บ
My scooping underneath of that kick is very cumbersome to me.
ชุบปุ๊บโม่ปุ๊บ
But the stepping forward of that part is a little bit more of like a hurl, which is good.
ถ้ามีคนเป็นมวยเตะตบเตะก็เดินทำแบบไหนตัวนี้หลายคน
So I'm actually proud of myself about this. Crew Manop is incredible at taking very minor, very detailed approaches to teaching a technique.
หนักด้วยนะ
I got him to talk about strategy, and he went off. Like, he got really excited. I've never actually seen him this excited talking about
นิดเดียวแต่ว่า
technique.
มันมีน้ำหนักเพราะว่า
I asked him, when people are kickers, like if you're Muay Thai, right, like you like to kick, how do you move forward and have your jangwa and be able to kick all the time? Because kicks have changed. In the golden age, the kick had this kind of floating forward. Kevin and I call it the golden kick. It's got this kind of trajectory that's right up the body and then over. When you watch kicks now in contemporary Muay Thai, it's way more of a wide, like baseball bat slamming kind of kick.
รอ
He got really excited about how to get power on this like golden kick. If you watch his feet and the bend in his legs,
ยืนว่า
he's talking about how you're always ready to kick, and this lift on the standing leg. See how hard he twists on the ball of his foot?
ถ้ายืน
He can go, and because he's twisting so hard, he's actually building quite a bit of torque on that kick before it lands on you, but he's not coming wide. He actually doesn't even step outside your stance very much. He's right in the middle, but he floats up on his standing foot the same way Karahat does.
ดูระยะดูระยะ
He and Karahat actually trained together at the Sor Supuan gym when they were much younger.
มวยเดี๋ยวนี้มวยจะฉลาดเพราะพอเราขยับจะเตะปุ๊บเขาจะถอยออกมานิดหนึ่งเราต้องกะเวลา
So he's talking about how, as a kicker, you need to be able to move in and out all the time. Like, you basically have to be able to change direction on a dime. So the way your feet work in coordination to how you kick is really important if you're going to be a kicker.
นี่ก็พอไหม
อ่า
He's showing this movement
อ่า
here.
ขาเหยียดขาตรงขาเหยียดตรงเหยียด
Ka tom, that's my standing leg. Tom is like
ตรงหมด
the root of something or the base of something. So that's like the trunk
สะโพกหลัง
is your standing leg.
ใช่ปะ
And then you're sending your
ขา
hip
ตึงขาตึง
of the kicking leg, but he wants the leg actually quite straight. He says if you bend your leg,
มันจะแรงกว่า
you're taking some of the power out of it.
ขาตรง
ใช่
ใช่ปะ
So see how his standing leg, he comes up on his toe, he like floats up, and his kicking leg is also very straight. It comes up the side of my body, but because he pivots so hard on his standing foot, it just slams into me with a lot of speed.
ก้าวมาแล้วเหยียดตรงเลย
He's talking about how fast it is to kick like this. This is actually a little bit like Sylvie. Sylvie's kicks are crazy fast. He's in the Muay Thai Library.
อ่า
And his kicks and his knees actually kind of look the same. Until they land on you and then you know.
ขายืดพยายามให้ขาตรง
But see how I don't have to step outside of him for that right kick to kind of come
ถ้า
into
เราเตะ
him.
ไปพร้อมกันเนี้ย
It's not landing on the side, like it's not missing its power because the hip comes around.
แขนน่ะจริงๆแขน
I
อยู่
love
บน
this
จะได้
point
อยู่
he's
ล่าง
making
ก็ได้
right here.
ขอให้
He's
ไหล่
saying it's not important whether you throw your arm down or whether you keep your arm up, which are two different schools of thought. He says the important part is that your shoulder and your hip come together at the same time. What your arm does is completely irrelevant. It's that the hip and the shoulder come together that brings the power and allows you to return back with the speed that he's doing this. Because again, if you're a kicker, the point is being able to kick over and over and over again. It's the same thing with if you're Muay Cow, you don't want to lean back on your knees because you're throwing so many knees.
ใช่
เตะเยอะๆเตะ
ไม่
เย
ใช่
อะ
เตะ
ๆเออ
So he's saying when you train, you just have to kick so many times, like a gajillion times, and it'll find its path to how you can kick from anywhere.
เออขยับเว
Look
ลา
at his
ที่
feet.
เตะ
Look at his
เป้า
legs.
ขยับตลอด
The like bend he has, the way that he can change direction and seem so light on his feet all the time is really beautiful.
ก้าวยกปึ๊บกลับกลับแล้วต้องยืนให้ได้ที่เก่า
He's saying how important it is after the kick to come back to your neutral position so that you can kick again. You don't want to be like off balance or catching yourself with your foot landing like in a weird spot that you can't kick from. You basically want everything to be really
เรายืน
kind
เลย
of
ยืนเตะ
uniform.
เลยขวางได้ แล้วเตะเสร็จปุ๊บเราพับเลย ยืนยักเตะปุ๊บเราพับ
So if you've kicked
เตะ
someone
แล้วพับ
the way that he
คา
kicks
คุรุสุจับ
and they catch it or you want to keep them off of you, you just bend your knee and you've created this
เหยียด
bar.
แล้วต่อย เวลาคู่ต่อสู้จะเตะกวาดจะเตะกวาดจะเตะดัน
So this is me coming to try to kick him after I've caught his
กว่าเขา
kick,
จะกวาดเราอ่ะมันก็
and
ยาก
he just puts his hand on my chest, and I can't go
เขา
anywhere.
กวาดเราได้ถ้าเขาจับแน่นๆเพราะเราเหยียบพอเราเหยียบเนี่ย
Chop nin nin, that means catch tight. Like you catch it and you're holding that leg really
เขา
tight.
เกี่ยวเราไม่ลง แต่เขาหลอกเรา
He's like, if they're holding it really tight, I can't go anywhere. Meaning the person who has their leg caught, he can't go anywhere. He can't slip out.
กวาดเลยได้
So
มันจะอยู่ที่
if they're gonna come try to trip him, like if they're gonna come try to do what he's just spent 40 minutes teaching me to do to kick his leg out, you can just bend your knee to like create this bar and keep them on the outside, or you can put your hand out on their chest and keep them away from you.
ต่อยเราหรือเราต่อยเขา
I'm asking him about punches, and he's like, me punching or someone punching at me? And I'm like,
ไม่ให้คะแนนเยอะ
up to you.
ไม่ให้คะแนนเยอะ
And I was really excited by his answer, actually. He says that even if you're femur, if you're not like a puncher,
ยังไม่ทันลงแล้วเตะ
you
เลย
use your hands with punches all the time to set up your kicks. So if you're a kicker, you're going to end up punching all the time because you're keeping your hands in your opponent's face in order to get them to not be able to see your kicks coming.
ใช่ไหม
ครับ
Jangwat, guys, I'm telling you, you learn no other concept, no other word. Jangwat is so important because you're punching for Jangwat in order to set up for your kicks. You're using Jangwat to close your opponent's eyes,
ต่อยเหมือนจะเตะ
keep the distance that you want.
แล้วก็หลอกเท้า
Look how pretty that right is. How he kind of like fakes his way in, but then throws the punch that he was faking in the first place.
เวลาที่เราเตะเป้าตลอดเวลาเราต้องยับต่อยปุ้งเตะปุ้งเตะปุ้งงัดปุ้งเตะปุ้ง
He's saying
มัดเลย
when we kick pads,
มีแรง
you want to
มีเบา
use
มีแรง
like these
มีเบา
little touching with your hand all the
ไม่ใช่
time.
หนัก
Like you
ตลอด
want to get used to
หนัก
your
ตลอด
hands
ต่อย
touching the
ยาก
pads,
เราไปต่อย
throwing these
สอง
little
เขาก็ดึง
punches,
ปุ๊บ
jabs.
หายแล้ว
ใช่
อ่ะ
แล้วก็ท่าพัด
ใช่ครับ
Because if you just throw these power punches and they move out of the way and you miss and you're off balance, you basically want to feel making small contacts to set up for your big contacts all the time.
ใช่แล้วก็ทำเบาแล้วก็เวลาคุรุสุปิดแล้ว
เตะเลย
ดัง
อ๋ออย่างไรตึ๊กจิ้มตึง แต่เตะเป็น
So
แต้
this
ม
is
เยอะกว่า
using lighter
มวยไทย
strikes
พอ
to
ติ้ง
set
ๆ
up
เรา
for
ต่อย
heavier
ถ้ามันไม่
strikes.
ลงอ่ะมันก็เหมือนกับเราไม่ได้เลยจับพอกลับเป็นปุ๊บเตะเลยเตะแล้วมันจะเป็นแต้ม
So he's saying that he doesn't really use the jab so much to set up for like a power cross, even though obviously you can. But as a kicker, you can use the exact same jab, and then you would for a cross that we're familiar with in the West with boxing, but he just throws a right kick.
ออกทีเดียวกรรม
It's the
การไม่เห็น
same
คะแนน
pattern, it's the same rhythm.
ตุ้ม
ใช่
มันไม่ต่อเนื่อง
I loved this too. He's talking about scoring in Thailand, and he's like,
พอเข้ามาเราป้องกัน
judges
ตัว
don't
ได้
actually look at your single strike. It's not like one big kick, one big kick, like great. It's how you set it up. It's how you use everything to piece together your power shots. So he's like, all those hands that are setting up for the power right kick and the repeated power right kick are what overall gets scored as a good fighter, rather than like, well, that one big kick is worth 3 points and then this one big punch is worth 2. He's talking about how it all pieces together. I really liked that insight from him.
จับตุ้มจิ้มตุ้มอย่างเงี้ย
I actually feel more comfortable just jabbing and right kicking with him right here than I normally do.
เตะขวาถีบ
Not
ขวา
my
ง่าย
favorite combination, but
เพราะ
here
ว่า
I can
เราเตะ
feel
ขวา
how
เสร็
it
จปุ๊บ
flows
เราจะมา
together.
ถีบซ้ายมันจะ เตะขวาปุ๊บกลับปุ๊บเขาขยับ
So
ปุ๊บ
he's
ถีบ
showing how
ได้เลยบางจังหวะเริ่ม
lots
เตะ
of
ปุ๊บ
people,
เราถีบ
after a
ได้เลย
right kick, they automatically use their opposite leg to teep off.
อ่า
And he's saying you can just keep using that same leg. If you have control on your standing leg, you can kick right and then use that right leg to keep them off of you also.
แล้วเตะไปถ้าเข้าพังเราเกี่ยวหลอก
This is a technique that I've learned from a few different trainers, which is you kick your opponent and get them to block, and then when they're on one leg from the block, you turn your fake kick into a teep. Manop does this quite differently from a lot of the people that I've learned this from, in that it appears as though he's doing this totally weird, like, wiggle thing with his leg before teeping. See how that looks like he's doing like a crazy little kick out? It took me a while to understand what he was doing, but it's actually really brilliant. It's the same thing as how if you're gonna knee straight into the body, you keep your heel on the outside of your hip in order to make your knee go straight. His knee is coming up straight for the teep, but he's putting his heel on the outside of his body as a little bit of a fake first. It's a little bit, if you guys have seen Nam Sak Noi in the Muay Thai Library, when he's boxing, he'll like throw his fist out to the side just to like fake you for a second before he nails you in the face. This is kind of what Crew Manop is doing here with his foot. But what I was confused about is that I was letting my leg follow my heel because I was following his fake. Like I was misunderstanding his fake. And so when I imitated it, I let my whole leg go. But it's not like that. Watch his knee. His knee comes straight forward. The heel comes out as the fake, but his knee is still coming forward. So his teep is actually incredibly fast because the knee has already come straight, and then it just kind of go gadget extends forward for the teep.
เอาใหม่ขาตรงๆไม่ต้องบิดยืนตรงๆเห็นป่ะยืนตรงๆเราพร้อมที่จะถีบแล้วอันนี้คือพร้อมที่
He's saying ka dong dong. This means that my standing leg is straight. He's saying you don't have to like twist on your standing foot. You don't have to pivot on your standing foot. It stays stable. Look at his standing foot. And then his heel just kind of kicks out, but his knee is coming straight forward, and then it turns into a teep at the last second. And again, if you go back and watch the first session with Manop in the Muay Thai Library, it is all on the teep. He is a master at the teep. And you can see how long his teep is, which he's doing when he comes at the end of this one. So that's Crew Manop. He is absolutely amazing. His gym is in Chiang Mai, and you can go train with him there. He is absolutely detailed and beautiful. His technique is amazing. And I can attest that even though he is brilliant at the femur style, and you can 100% learn amazing femur style from him, he held pads for me as a Muay Khao, and it was awesome. He can train any style. He's really amazing.